After completing Rance 4, the only games left between me and the highly anticipated Kichiko Rance were Rance 4.1, Save the Medicine Plant, and Rance 4.2, Angel Army. Like with every other Rance entry I've gone through so far, I had no real idea what the games would be like, beyond some very surface level info. Rance 4.1 and 4.2 is a two-part side story that takes place after Rance 4. I had lowered my expectations for these two games due to some overall lower average ratings for them, and how some even just recommended skipping the games altogether. While Rance 3 and 4 started to introduce world building and lore for the Rance universe, as well as just the writing becoming a lot stronger in regards to all the characters and such, the impression I had before trying these games out is that these would be a noticeable step down and all that. I was just a tiny bit worried that these games would be like a slog to go through, but honestly, I'm happy to announce that all those worries were for naught. I would definitely consider these games to be lacking in the same depth that made Rance 3 and 4 so compelling to me, both in terms of the gameplay and the story. However, what these games did succeed in was managing to be completely in my alley of humor. I've stated it before in my previous videos, so I won't go completely in depth here, but I've always really enjoyed the humor that Rance has brought as a protagonist. He has amazing and hilarious dynamics of every character, as well as the pinnacle of monologues and standard dialogue. Thanks to this, even though these games don't have as interesting stories, Rance being the peak of protagonists means I still had a pretty good time with them. Firstly, before going into any specific favorite moments, let's go over a bit of what the story is. So, the game starts off with Rance and his new buddy, Athena 2.0, talking to a chubby president of some weird pharmacy. Why? Well, Rance is once again in crippling debt thanks to him being completely irresponsible with money, with plenty of obligations needing to be paid and attended to. After having a slight meltdown in his house, he heads to meet up with Keith, the same fellow who gave Rance his main job in the first game and showed up a bit in 3 as well. Supposedly being the most decent job available, he picks out this pharmacy job which could pay out a whole 150k gold. However, before I get ahead of myself, we should address the elephant in the room first. How come Rance is with his new friend Athena instead of with Sil? Well, after the ending of Rance 4, he's actually genuinely afraid of the idea of her getting hurt again and doesn't want to experience it again, so he makes sure she stays home. Of course, he's too much of a goober to actually admit it properly to her, but the idea alone is very cute. Now, let's continue on. What does this pharmacy job entail? Under the Happiness Pharmaceuticals factory, a large cave opened up and an abundance of monsters started causing trouble. While they managed to somewhat patch it up, the employees still feel unsafe, so they want to exterminate the whole dungeon. But they've had little success of doing so. Out of 8 groups of adventurers that they hired, only 4 of them remain. Scary! Fast forward some, after a bit of talking with various staff and making their way to the dungeon, Rance comes across plenty of new faces, such as Genri, a monk who seemingly shares similar desires as Rance, as much as he refuses to admit it. Once in the dungeon, after a bit of exploration featuring goofball activities between him and Athena, he comes across 2 other faces, Kisara, a very cute new girl, and Bird, a character from Rance 2 who he is not on good terms with due to Bird trying to steal Sil in said game. And to just add on to more reasons for Rance to hate him, Kisara and Bird seem to be in a relationship as well, leading for Rance to plot against breaking them apart one way or another. After more exploring and goofy antics, they come across Summon-chan, who seemingly is the one causing the monsters to appear. Our heroes make their goal to find a way to stop Summon-chan, as well as uncovering other secrets regarding the Happiness Pharmaceutical business. By the end of 4.1, Summon-chan is stopped, but due to the aforementioned secrets and shady business from the pharmacy, 4.2 comes and takes place immediately after, with a crew of Rance, Athena, and new party members Kisara and Genri, solving it all for good. Now let's move on to another aspect of these games, such as the characters. As per usual, Rance is a complete joy to experience. What these games bring to the table is a newfound combo of Athena and Rance teaming up. While I would say I still prefer the overall dynamic Rance and Sil have due to their whole history together, the duo of Athena and Rance is extremely hilarious and still really fun to go through. While Sil mainly plays off of Rance's stupidity and balances out with actually having common sense in regards to everything, Athena and Rance bring upon a duo of stupid and even stupider, which is honestly executed quite well. There's too many great moments overall for me to just name 1 or 2, so I hope that some of the footage can speak for itself. And of course, these games did make me enjoy Athena as a character even more as well. I'd already started to like her from Rance 4, but all her additional screen time here just made her even more enjoyable. While the concept of dumb anime girl isn't uncommon, I feel like sometimes when I come across it in other media, it doesn't really land with me. But for me, Athena feels very charming and silly, so I love seeing her on screen. She's not some mind-blowing complex character, but that's okay. I hope she continues to pop up in future entries. To go back and talk a bit more about Rance himself, while these games didn't introduce much for depth for him specifically, it did show some tidbits for things that I did enjoy, or find neat to think about. For one, as I mentioned earlier, the whole bit with Rance making sure Syl stays home is cute. One thing I very much enjoyed going from game to game is seeing more and more of Rance and Syl's relationship. While of course we know Syl is in love with Rance, I love seeing bits where Rance shows so much weakness in regards to her from 3 and 4, such as being completely distressed when she's been captured or harmed. And now this intro just makes me look forward to their relationship, I guess, developing even more. One note about Rance in this game is that he pulls a lot more cruel shit than you might expect without Syl being there to reel him in and prevent him from doing certain actions. I definitely wouldn't say it feels out of character or anything, but some pretty unhinged things do occur. Just for one example, remember the Kisar, very cute, girl I mentioned who was seemingly in a relationship with Bird? Well, in the end, he does win her over, but how he does so is pretty fucked. Though I can't lie, it was rather amusing to me to see the lengths he'd go for just for a cute girl. Think of that how you will. Well, that's enough about Rance. How about the other characters? Honestly, I don't really have too much to say about everyone else. Kisara is extremely cute and has a pretty peak design, and seeing her be soft with Rance, even if it may or may not be deserved, was pretty cute. From what I understand, she doesn't show up much at all past these games, which is pretty unfortunate, but I still care for her. Gary, of course, is a big goober. While he's into far weirder things than Rance, in the end they both share a mindset of needing cute girls. But of course, instead of forming a type of true bond, Rance considers himself to be way above him and uses every opportunity to butt heads with him or fuck him over, which is pretty amusing. Bird making a return in this game was also pretty neat, even if the most memorable aspect of him was getting owned by Rance. While I don't think he did anything particularly noteworthy in these games, I am actually interested in seeing where his character goes from entry to entry, as I've seen a lot of people praise him and consider a high favorite. Syl making an appearance as Pink Mask simply out of concern and wanting to help Rance is cute. Her efforts are appreciated and I love her very much. It's also extremely funny that Rance genuinely does not realize who Pink Mask is. While she's unable to be summoned in 4.2, in 4.1, Phallus is able to be summoned again as well, which is of course always great to see. The concept alone of Rance getting to bother and summon such a powerful demon is always amusing to me. Plus, you can tell how she's just completely worn out by him. As expected, I hope she continues to appear from entry to entry, even if she may not wish for so. There's a bunch of ground monsters who are relevant, even including some notable ones returning from Rance 4 to beat Rance's ass, which is pretty neat, but honestly, I don't really feel like I have anything much to say about the rest of the cast. They serve their purpose, and due to a lot of them purely being very much basic, silly NPC designs, Rance often makes fun of and bullies a lot of them. So at least their existence is funny for those moments, but all in all, just not really a lot to say. One thing I'd like to note is that while these games don't really add a whole lot in terms of world building or adding to the deep history or past like Rance 4 did, I think what it does have is still neat enough. A concept in other RPGs or other series that I enjoy seeing explored is getting to see the day-to-day life of enemies or mobs who you might otherwise just think of, wow, all I do is fight them in random encounters. Such as the Mario RPGs tend to give spotlight on the life of typical enemies such as Goombas or Koopas, giving a view of their villages and stuff, and also introducing them as playable characters, Rance 4.1 and 4.2 gives a little view and some action that the monsters are up to. Of course, not everything is so positive, but at the end of the day, I still think it's neat. While I'm not sure if the pharmacy business or the location here will be relevant for any future games, I still think the vibe it has is cool enough. While Rance is of course known for the fantasy element of it all, I think there's an appeal to seeing normal, in a vacuum, businesses and locations too. It really adds to the world feeling more complete and interesting to think about. With all that covered, all that's left is the gameplay. It has the same sort of adventure style of clicking where you want to go from a menu of sorts, how you want to interact with each character, and so on, like in previous Rance games. The dungeons are somewhat reminiscent of how they are in Rance 2, where you click which direction or path you want to head to. But unlike that game, your map actually starts off completely blank, and as you progress, Athena will draw them in. The addition of Athena drawing everything is rather cute, and makes them actually pretty charming, which is a really nice touch. Plus, of course, she helps makes it easier to remember certain things. At points where Athena isn't available, Rance will draw parts of the map instead, and it's extremely amusing seeing how shitty he is at art. To continue on, the battles are pretty simple. With the addition of the English patch, you could either choose to let your party members be controlled by AI, which is the default, or you could choose to control them yourself. Regardless of what you pick, the game is pretty easy to go through. There's an HP and stamina system, with both being able to be reduced when attacked. When a character's stamina is gone, they can no longer fight, even if they have a lot of HP remaining. However, even if someone's stamina is completely gone, they can still be attacked until they're actually knocked out and lose all HP. There's also a power meter, I guess, which is spent each time you attack. While it is refilled a bit each turn, the standby command will fill up the power meter more as well. Each of the party members have different attributes which do make them stand out a bit, such as Kisara having access to card attacks of different elements and being a bit frail, while Genri has a ton of HP and stamina available, as well as access to debuffs. All in all, even when your party members are left to the AI, there's no real challenging fights or anything that might require too much thought. While I did overall prefer the gameplay from 3 and 4, there's still a pretty comfy simplicity to games like these, and the whole drawing map aspect bumped it up to not feel boring or anything to explore the dungeons as well. I haven't really commented on the OST yet, which has normally been a highlight for me in the previous games. That's kind of because I felt it wasn't too special in comparison to them. But in the end, it still served its purpose, and I wouldn't consider it bad by any means, just not quite on the same level. Well, all in all, that about sums up all of my thoughts in regards to Rance 4.1 and 4.2. In the end, while these games aren't some secret hidden gem or have a mind-blowing story, they still made me smile and laugh a lot. And sometimes that's all you need to be a good time. While I can understand if some people skip these two, especially since apparently it can be kind of funky to properly run due to how old they are, I think they're still well worth going through. As I previously stated, there's a charming aspect to the games as a whole. Plus, it has more Athena 2.0 content and everyone needs more of her. Of course, the next step in our adventure is Kichiko Rance, which, in case you're not already aware, as of now I've beaten the game once and already love it to pieces. However, due to the crazy amount of content that I found that I missed, and a ton of horrible decisions on my part throughout my playthrough, I plan on playing through the game again, maybe twice before working on the script and everything for the next video. I want it to be complete as possible. So I apologize in advance if it'll be another long break until then. I'm extremely thankful for all the positive and wonderful comments on my previous videos. Reading them all and being able to share my love about this series with so many people has made me so happy. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.